This video is made possible by the EA Creator Network.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So this guide is to ensure that when you're playing day one that you don't act like an absolute noob on Apex Legends and that you feel confident playing Ballistic. We're going to cover everything for Ballistic from the passive, tactical, to the ultimate ability to ensure that at least you have the bit of understanding of what Ballistic does and that you're not lost. Later on in the season, we're going to be doing more an advanced guide. So consider this your introduction, your beginner's guide, but ensure that you at least you have a better understanding compared to a pro of what Ballistic does. Now, what we're going to start with here is actually the passive, which is the sling. One of the most interesting parts about the sling is that this carries a third slot weapon. You have to be a lot more selective with what you put in here, because specifically whenever you do put a weapon in the slot, you're going to find that all of the attachments do fall off, meaning that you can only have a base gun located within the sling. But of course, when you activate your ultimate ability, the sling now has an overpowered gold gun to its attachment. So what can you put here? Well, you could definitely put a Havoc or something very, very strong that as the hop-ups that are needed can be very powerful, such as an RA-45, maybe a P-2020, something that has an attachment that is hard to locate, but also has a great finisher quality to it. So keep that in mind when you're using this gun. Of course, another alternative, if you're not really too fancy on the close-range weapons, maybe you can use it for a charge rifle. Charge rifles are very, very strong. The downside, of course, you can't necessarily put a sight on it, but you could put it in your inventory and then drop your other gun if you need it as well. Get clever, get smart about what you put in your inventory slot here to really maximize on its potential. Think outside the box and be sure to find what your weakness is as a player, because everyone's going to have a different answer when it comes to utilizing Ballistic sling. Now, of course, as a reminder, Ballistic is actually part of the assault class, so Ballistic can carry extra ammo, which is definitely very beneficial towards the passive sling weapon whenever you're trying to locate different ammo for a different weapon type. So as we talked about before, ensure that at least the weapons follow the same ammo category. That might be helpful, but of course, if you don't, just keep in mind that at least you can hold extra ammo to utilize Ballistic to its fullest capability. Of course, access those weapon supply bins as well. Now, let's talk about the tactical ability. What's very interesting about this tactical ability is that you hold your tactical down, and of course, it locks onto the target. When it hits for 20 damage. And of course, when they overheat their weapon, it damages them for 30 damage. Now, the most interesting thing, you'll notice that they put away their hand, they're like, ow, it really hurts. And of course, it does 30 additional damage. Now, this cooldown timer lasts for an extended period of time. Quite a bit of time, so as we were talking through that whole thing, it just fell off just a few seconds ago. So this lasts for a really long time, but keep in mind that if you refuse to shoot your gun, you got to watch that meter. Now, the meter does fall down if as long as you don't shoot, and of course, for single tap weapons, weapons that do a lot more damage on burst impact, definitely have a faster charge up. And of course, if you're using a SMG or an AR, it ramps up a lot slower. So every weapon has a different ramp up time. Here's an example. If you utilize a Kraber when getting hit by the tactical ability, it almost fills up completely, meaning you can shoot one more bullet until it starts to really burn your hand. But of course, if you use, let's say, an R99 and shoot for just a little bit of damage, switch over to the Kraber, and then that Kraber, man, is it going to burn. It's not too intrusive, but trust me, that damage burst that it comes with is very, very nasty. Now, let's showcase some footage here that I'm going to overlay on screen that's very, very important. You'll notice that the most interesting things that you can ADS while shooting this very much works like Mad Maggie, but a lot more powerful of an effect. Because keep in mind that that area effect, we'll showcase it here next to the dummy, works very much like an Ash Tactical. Now, I shot it so it didn't hit the dummy, but you'll notice a very rim of the parameter. If they walk into it, they'll take that bit of extra damage that we're talking about, which is a 20, and it'll attach right to them. Now, keep in mind, it's not perfect. You can't necessarily just shoot it up in the air and hope that it hits them like Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy. You have to be very precise and very tactical when utilizing this. So keep that in mind. Maybe utilize other legends to put pressure so the tactical ability can really be maximized. Grenades to put somebody out of pressure, push them back in, get him to really duck and weave, so pairing with Mad Maggie could be a very powerful asset. Maybe pairing with Loba to give your swing some capability in terms of what you want to put into a third slot. Maybe a caustic gas ultimate. Really think outside the box of what really will work well with Ballistic. There's a lot of great pairings here, but my biggest tip as you go into the next ability, of course, is to keep in mind that when you ADS and you have this, so we're going to go to showcase it here, even though we've showcased it many times, you can have it on your left. You essentially have two guns to do some damage here, and you can get really, really creative and do a lot of entry damage with this. So keep that in mind, have some fun, whether it's range or close range, and blast those enemies apart. Just as a quick reminder, in the distance between the shot, the most powerful point is about 70 meters. Of course, if you shoot it up in the air, you shoot it at a distance, it'll go all the way there and also relocate to whatever opponent is nearby. So keep that in mind as well when you're shooting. And of course, if you shoot it all the way up in the sky, I want to showcase what it looks like when you're doing that, as long as there is an opponent that is not nearby. It actually will go all the way up and come all the way back down, just like a fuse grenade, and give it a second. It's going to take a while. Let's talk about the ultimate ability. What I find very interesting about Ballistic is the fact that nearby enemies get faster reloads, faster movement speed, and infinite ammo, and your gunsling, like we discussed, upgrades to gold. Now, this is the most interesting thing, is that Ballistic necessarily isn't no longer a solo player. This really relies on the fact that your team is now a full team that works all together. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that into the sling there, use our ultimate ability, and you're going to notice whenever you bring up that weapon, now it's gold. And it's got quite a big pack there as we switch over. There we go. And the reload speed works, look at that, it's absolutely disgusting. So keep that in mind when you're moving around. It's like a Bangalore speed, movement speed just about. And you can move around with your team. Now the area effect, they have to be pretty close for your teammates to really capitalize on this. And you'll notice, you'll notice from the other side of it, if your opponent, that your jets kind of pop up of your backpack. It's like a little jet, it's like a little area effect there. And let's say your team doesn't have enough ammo, pop the ultimate and go wide swing them. Let's say your teammate isn't necessarily ready for this fight, but you know what? It's okay. Let's reload. Let's get back in the action. Pop that ultimate. So keep that in mind with when you're trying to reset, when you're trying to get back into the fight. It can be used as a great reset opportunity. It can be used as a great pusher. It can be used as a great way to save on resource if you want to put pressure from a distance. You don't necessarily have to use this for close range encounters. You could definitely use it for long range encounters as well. Let's say you want to utilize that third weapon to its maximum capability during a firefight, because that third weapon was actually used for utility that you can bring to the gunfight. Then you can pop your ultimate. Maybe that's a little more selfish in what you can use it for, but it's an opportunity nonetheless. When we talk about Ballistic, what does Ballistic work well with? Well, it's definitely with Legends with a lot of utility that can complement in terms of getting Ballistic around. Now, just because Ballistic's ultimate ability has a lot of movement speed behind it, doesn't mean that Ballistic doesn't benefit from getting around the map, such as with a Valkyrie or a Pathfinder or gathering intel, putting pressure behind people behind a box, getting pushed behind the box, and using, like we mentioned, like a Mad Maggie pushing with the tactical. Anything that has pushing power, even Revenant and Ballistic kind of sounds a little scary. Bangalore and Ballistic paired together after pushing after Rolling Thunder is quite scary, as well as putting pressure on them after they've taken damage. Pairing with somebody with a great reset, such as Lifeline, Gibraltar, or Newcastle. And of course, you want to anchor, and you want to lay down some fire long range. Well, it's not bad to do with a controller class either. It provides a lot more utility than other Legends that have been, I guess, so to speak, released as of late, such as Ash or Mad Maggie. I find Ballistic is going to be a lot more shocking, not necessarily utilized in the pro area, but definitely a lot in ranked or potentially in pubs as well, to really provide a lot more damage and pushing power. Remember, the biggest things we look for within high tier play is, do they have rotation abilities, and what utility do they bring to the table to help in terms of reset as well as pushing power. We don't have the best pushing power, but we do have a lot of utility and options at our disposal, especially when we're running into a team and we utilize our ultimate. It doesn't last too long, but it's enough, such as a Bloodhound ultimate, to really sync with other Legends and their utility. Now, you're probably looking around the test range and saying, wow, there's a lot of changes here. And yes, there is. If you're very curious about these changes, be sure to check out the link in the description down below where we cover all the test range content. Now, the test range content, there is so much here that I promise you we're going to have a full series here on the channel, so I definitely recommend that you subscribe. Stay on the channel, because we're going to talk about how you can improve your aim and how you can improve your overall mechanics here on Apex Legends to really improve, and it's not going to be able to be done in one singular video. What I'll definitely do is we'll cover each of these things that you see across this test range, and we'll turn it into one master video by the end of the season. So thank you guys for watching. Don't become a noob there out on the field on Ballistic. This is your first introduction to the Legend. Go out there and master Ballistic. Really take the time to learn and put that tactical in front of doors, bait it, push it out in the open, get different weapon combinations, be smart about your loadout. And of course, be smart about the Legends that you load out with. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all in the next video.